Good evening. This is me, Imran, again for the PMP review training. Today we have our day 8. On day 8, we have the topic of risk management, which is very important. So today's knowledge area we are going to discuss for a review is project risk management. As per our rule, we need to just write down the process name, what they are, so we can understand the flow also. So the first process was plan risk management. Then we will have identify risk. Then we will perform qualitative risk analysis. And then if required, we will perform quantitative risk analysis. Why it is so, I will do it in explanation. Then we'll plan the risk responses, what they are. And once they are prepared, we will implement the risk responses which are prepared. And while doing so, we'll keep an eye on the risk, how it is changing its profile, what we need to do, how to adjust. Okay, so based on our first process, which is the management plan, and what we do in the management plan defines the criteria, or you can say that management plans defines the things, how you will pursue the things, how you will define the things, how you will execute the things, how you will govern the things, how you will make the strategy, which strategy is going to work out with this. So there are certain things which needs to be done in plan risk management. The first thing is you have to check the stakeholder appetite. Stakeholder appetite, that what type of risk holder they are. They are risk averse, neutral, seekers, tolerant. What are the risk factors attached with them? So based on the risk appetite, we will get the collaboration, we will get the consensus to know that which type of stakeholders have which type of risk appetite. So once we have found out risk appetites, you will also define here the methods which will be used. You will also define here to categorize the risk as low, medium, high. What will be considered as low, medium, high? Like low equals to 5 days, 10 is equals to medium is equals to 10 days, and high is equal to 15 or 20 days, or anything above than 5,000 will be considered as high, and so on. And you will get the consensus from all the required stakeholders that do you agree that this will be considered as low, medium, and high. So based on appetites and categorizations of low, medium, and high, we will also define here that who will be doing what part in this type of knowledge area, what will be the roles and responsibilities for the people. So based upon that, there are other things like governance. You will set out, you will send out the templates for the risk registers. You will set out the frequency of meetings, that how we will do the review meetings, how we will do the emergent risk meeting if something new happens, if something goes beyond the control. So you will define all the criteria here. Once they are defined, it means now you have the strategy mapped towards the project objectives. What are the project objectives? Scope, schedule, cost, and quality. So based upon that risk, now we will start our second process, which is what identify the risk. If you look PMI, why they call themselves as the gold standard, for sure the way they have developed these things, exactly they have done in a perfect way. So if you will try to go in that flow, for sure you will not forget anything, and you will follow a linear process, a framework which will guide you how to do the things in a better way. So identify risk. Here you will create the risk register. What is the risk register? It contains the name of the risk. It contains the role or the risk owner, who will be the risk owner for the risk. And if we know the responses, we can propose the responses also. It contains all the data attributes of the risk, which are identified, determined, researched, with the help of many tools and techniques. If you are doing the PMI RMP course itself, there are more than 30 plus tools and techniques to identify the risk. Most common ones are called as SWOT analysis, document analysis. We have root cause analysis. We have a fishbone diagram. We have failure mode effect analysis, and so on. There's a big list. The PASL, the prompt list. So based on those, you will identify the risk, and you will list them down in the risk registers. So you will have the name of the risk, who will be the risk owner. Risk owner is a person who is responsible for identifying and proposing the risk responses. He will keep an eye on the risk responses. He will also provide the trigger conditions like the uh, indicators that this is the indication that risk may occur, because we need to stop the occurrence of the risk. If it occurs, it will not be the risk, it will become the issue. So he'll keep an eye on the risk responses and trigger conditions to make sure that whatever he has proposed, it's working. If not, then he has to provide the fallback plans also, that if this plan does not work, plan A does not work, so we will have the contingency plans. Our contingency plans are not working, then you should have a fallback plans. So he should define all the criteria, that what will be the responses, what will be the contingency plans, and what will be the fallback plans. So once all the risks are identified, now we need to sort those risks. To sort those risks, we execute another process called as perform qualitative risk analysis. Here, what we do, we sort the risk or arrange the risk based on their probabilities and impact. With the formula EMV is equals to P multiplied by probability multiplied by impact, we will sort that risk. The things which we will use is risk ranking metrics or risk probability and impact metrics to show the stakeholders that, okay, what will be the definition of low, medium, and high, and we will establish the risk ranking metrics where we identify the risk and we list down the risk, all the positive and negative risk. Just to recall it, that we said it will be like this from low to high, and low to high for the negative risk, and for the positive risk it will be low to high from here and low to high from here. So we will have the high level of risk in a single eye contact. So we can keep an eye on negative and positive risk accordingly. That is the format of risk ranking matrix. Or we can use a bubble diagram, bubble sort diagram, where we define that, okay, we have small ones here, big ones here, very big ones here, and so on here. So we can categorize the risk. So we can use risk ranking matrix or the bubble diagram to sort the risk. We can sort those risks based on the manageability, urgency, detectability, and so on. So once qualitative risk analysis is done, and still you think there is an uncertainty exists, so this process will be executed, which is option, not required for all the project processes. So we'll perform the quantitative risk analysis if uncertainty exists. And here we check out the overall project risk. In the qualitative risk analysis, we work for individual risk, while in quantitative risk analysis, we work with the, let me write it here also. It works for individual risks, while for the quantitative risk analysis, if an uncertainty exists, we have to go and find out overall project risk, which can impact the project objectives. Overall project risk impacting or affecting the project objectives. So for that, we use Monte Carlo's analysis. We use decision tree diagram to find out the better response. We use a sensitivity analysis with the help of tornado diagram to find out of those all risks, which risk particularly can impact the project objective. These are the three very common ones. Monte Carlos, where we run thousands of iterations to find out between time, resource, cost, that which will impact the project objectives. Decision tree for the decision making for each option, what will be the positives and negatives, and sensitivity analysis with the help of tornado diagram. So once you will come out with that thing, you will have a good picture that where you are standing, what will be the problems, what will be the situations. So you will be able to prepare the responses now, because you have identified the risk, you have sorted the risk, you have performed further analysis for the quantitative risk analysis. Now we are going to plan the risk responses. There are plans for the negative risk, and there are responses for the positive risk. The most common one, which are in both conditions, if you cannot do anything, you can escalate it, so it can be handled at the right level. We call it integrated risk management. That risk should be handled at its own appropriate level. We call it integrated risk management. Uh, in both cases, we can accept it. Acceptance could be active or passive. If it is active acceptance, we will go with the contingency results that we know we have to do something, and we will leave the contingencies. Passive acceptance, we are not going to acknowledge it, and we are leaving it that when it will happen, we will do something at that time, but we are not doing anything now. For the negative risk, you can avoid it. How will you know how to avoid it? Avoid means you need to change your plans. If you cannot avoid it, then you can try to mitigate it. That okay, now we cannot avoid it, but try to reduce the impact and bring it in our tolerance. Or you can transfer it, which means buying an insurance. So for the losses you can cover. For the positive risk, it was for the negative, it was avoid. So here it will be exploit. It's opposite to each other. We were mitigating. Here we will enhance. We'll make sure it happens. So it will bring the things. If we cannot do it, we will share it. So we have identified the risk. We have prepared the responses. The risks which were very minor here in the qualitative risk analysis, they cannot be classified. We put them in a document called watch list. And my role for the project manager is to keep an eye on that watch list until the project is going on. So we can close the risk when the time of the risk is finished. If not, keep following up. So these minor risks may not become the major risk. That is the rule of watch list. So once we have prepared the response, you will get it approved from the stakeholder. So now you will monitor the risk. Why you have to monitor the risk? To make sure that risk may change its properties from low to high or high to low, vice versa. New risk arrive, what to do. When the new risk is arrived and it's unidentified, we will use workarounds. What is workarounds? The unplanned risk responses, and they will always be funded by the management reserves, which is available in the here. And if required, and we have time, so what we'll do, whenever the new risk is identified, we will identify it as a proper risk, and we'll do the same thing, qualify, and then prepare the response, and then get it approved, and then implement the response. Also in the monitor risk, we do two things, the risk review or the risk audit. Risk review for the upcoming risk and risk audit for the occurred risk. So we can improve ourselves for continuous improvement, plus to keep ourselves current with the risk management. That is the task of monitor risk. So that was the whole risk. Let me repeat it again. We have the processes: plan risk management, identify risk, qualitative, quantitative, plan risk response, implement risk response, monitor risk. In plan risk management, the output will be risk management plan, where we define how, what is the risk appetite, methods, categorization of low, medium, and high with the help of probability and impact metrics, roles and responsibilities, governance, templates, frequencies of the meetings. Identify risk, we will have the risk register and risk reports, where we will list down the risk, who will be the risk owner, and what are the attributes of the risk. Then you will perform qualitative risk analysis to sort or arrange the risk based on their probabilities and impact on the basis of risk ranking metrics. And here we are dealing with individual risk. We can sort the risk also by manageability, detectability, proximity. So you can define the risk accordingly. Quantitative risk analysis, if still there is an uncertainty on some projects or it's a very high uncertainty project, so we can perform quantitative risk analysis. So here we are checking overall project risk, who can impact the project objectives. For that purpose, the most common tools and techniques available are Monte Carlo's analysis, decision tree analysis for the options, or sensitivity analysis, that out of those, which risk can impact the project objectives. Once you have quantified the risk, so you will have the responses. For negative, we have escalate, accept, avoid, mitigate, transfer. For positive, we have escalate, accept, exploit, enhance, share. You will get it approved from the stakeholders, and then you will give it to the risk action owner. Risk action owner will have these plans, and based on the trigger conditions provided by the risk action owner execute the responses. Whatever the status of the implemented risk responses, he will inform the project manager and risk manager. If the responses does not work, he will implement the contingencies plan and fallback plans. If it doesn't happen, again, he will inform the project manager and risk manager that the plans you provided did not work. So now we need to think. So project manager and risk manager will decide the further strategy. Monitor risk will keep an eye on the risk management, what is happening. New risks are identified, risks are changing their probabilities and impact their values, environmental conditions are changed. So you can align yourself and if required, produce a change request to update the risk register with the new risk, and then perform the same thing, identify risk, qualify risk, implement risk, plan risk responses, implement and monitor. And this will continue throughout the project. The definition, which is not here, like secondary risk. What is secondary risk? It occurs because of the risk response implementation of primary risk. Secondary risk, which occurs because of the risk response implementation of primary risk. We executed one plan, and because of that, another risk arrived. That is what secondary risk. So these are the major topics of risk management. I hope I clarified. So I'll see you in the next video for the day tomorrow, and we'll perform the questions after the video. Thank you very much. Wish you best of luck. I'll see you in the next video.